everybody. We're excited to jump into this session. Today we got Leeor, who's currently the CEO of CreateCX. We're going to be talking about from inputs to impact, turning customer support into a strategic growth engine. Leeor, thanks for joining. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Gabe. Excited
Yeah.
to have this little chat here today.
Yeah, I think this will be fun and we fun to dive in. I think you've got a lot of real practical experience about helping brands, really transform. So it'll be fun to dive in. But before we do, maybe tell us just a little bit more about yourself and some of the fun stuff you guys have been doing over there.
Thank you, Gabe. Yeah, so real quick background in all things CX operations and e-com. So started my career at Bonobos, the front ends of CX, was at Slice, the pizza app many of New Yorkers and others know about as the fifth employee and scaled their offshore CX from 5 to 500. My first
Wow.
exposure to customer back in 2017, 2018, actually. And most recently, my last full-time job was at Coterie Baby, where I was the first business hire and led all e-com technology operations and CX. CreateCX is a culmination of all those things. So really focusing on people, process, and platform technology, sort of as your fractional VP of customer experience. For upstart emerging brands, we can be that first CX hire, really focusing on building things right from the ground up. And then your more established, larger brands that are trying to focus on efficiency, get the most out of their platforms. We come in always at a 3-month sprint. And then always the goal is to stay on and sort of be the right-hand operating partner to, we like to say, bring CX to C-suite. So we focus
Yeah.
on the highest levels of customer experience and the lowest levels, training agents, building out SOPs, and improving their overall sanity inside of the help desk.
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely a needed service across the board. So appreciate all you're doing to push the industry forward. Cool. Well, want to dive in to a couple different things here. I've got a myriad of questions for you. We'll see how far we can get through some of these. But one of the things the audience has kind of been that I've been chatting with a few people about is this idea, and you've talked about it a lot. You said before that inbound tickets are inputs, not just problems to solve. Which I thought was kind of an interesting idea. Do you mind expanding on how brands can transform those inputs into kind of real business impact?
Yeah, the thing I love, and it's something I say all the time, is inputs to outputs, inputs to outputs.
Yes,
And I think
yes.
any sort of business department has those relevant inputs that create outputs. The way we think about it is customer experience at the end of the day is every question a customer might ask before they buy, when they buy, after they buy, when they return. And a lot of businesses get lost in trying to solve the most complicated problems, but those
Yeah,
inputs from customers' interactions are really like the core data that not just CX, but digital product,
yeah,
physical product, operations, marketing really cares about not only the bottlenecks in the business, but the feedback that your customers are giving to you. So when we say inputs to outputs, we're trying to quantify all those inputs to create outputs at both an agent level. How are we answering those customer inquiries to the best of our abilities? What is the data? Where within the experience was the question? What was the actual question of the customer? What was the net result of that conversation?
yeah,
And then those outputs, if you really think about it, every single ticket needs to be categorized in a certain set of ways, can be really important feedback to every other department. And so a lot of people are always searching for how to quantify or show the power of what CX is doing on the front lines, those departments. The way we view it is those outputs are those lines to every other department in the business to give the
mm,
CX lead, the head of CX at all these companies, real fuel to go and contextualize what they're doing day to day in the business to actually affect change at every other department at the company.
yeah, yeah. Look, I think that connection to the other organizations is so important. That output principle. But I like the input output principle. I think that's kind of a simple way to, or it's a simple principle for devil's in the details. I'm sure it's a little hard to maybe get down into it, but it's simple idea to have people kind of
Yeah,
start.
now having seen over 100 brands over the 6 years we've been at CreateCX, every business likes to say our business is a little unique. We have a
Yeah,
different type of customer. We have a different type of product. And that is true. But there are fundamental truths, especially when we're focusing on e-com and direct-to-consumer and retail-focused businesses. And it's about really solving the simplest problem at the highest level of complexity. You can get
yeah,
lost in everything's a fire. We need to
yeah,
respond to every ticket. But really learning from every single one of those tickets is how you actually affect change in your department and out to other departments.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are that's right. They're not just tickets, they're inputs to a lot of business strategy. Um, Something that's being talked about a lot here is, a lot of leaders still treat CX as a cost center. And I'm curious, what's the shift in mindset that needs to happen? And how do you coach teams through that so we're not just sitting on that cost center idea, but we are getting, something more revenue driven or profit driven or growth driven?
Yeah, it's something we deal with all the time, and we love working with CX leaders on this, but we also love working with COOs, CFOs,
Sure.
heads of digital, sort of contextualize that of the revenue and orders that your business is projecting actually translates on the customer service side. And so we always start with key metrics of saying, give us your financial model, and we can actually show you contextually what that means for inbound CX tickets and what that means for how your customers are going to respond to a marketing campaign, a new product launch, a big brand moment, right? All these brands and every department are driving towards these huge, magnificent moments, which are so important to the business, but how you contextualize that in CX. And I think in this new world of CX and the AI and everything like that, it does come inputs, outputs, right? Those outputs now have changed. So
Yeah.
it's where are your customers interacting with you? What times of day are they coming in? What channels are those things coming in? And then we work with our CX leadership to actually make sure that the team is the right size, the
Yeah.
prioritization of those inboxes, those queues and routing, one of my favorite parts about customer, right? We're really driving the CX team to focus on the right areas. And then in this world of AI, what are some of those interactions and engagements that we know we
Yeah.
can satisfy at a 99 to 100% certainty using a bit of automation, right? And so CX is a cost center, but if you do it right, it's revenue generating because you're
Yeah.
actually directly affecting those customer interactions, your first response time, your messages per ticket, which is the actual time to get a resolution to the customer, right? So there's a perfect balance of people and process, as we like to say, people, process, and then technology, right? If you stack those three up and actually have a linear focus, that starts
Yes.
with your financial model, actually, ironically enough, and goes down to hours of coverage, agents working inside of the inbox. That is how you sort of start to contextualize, a ticket means what to my organization.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
learning, but you're also building through.
Look, I think that, yeah, like what does a ticket mean, that line? What does a ticket mean to our organization? Like there is costs associated with that, there are dollars associated with that. And so being able to dive in and really understand how you can turn that cost center to profit center type things, I think makes a difference. And the
And that
organizations who are doing it seem to be doing it well. So
Yeah, and like focusing on those responses, right? Like we work with so many brands that are like, well, we have macros, we have SOPs. We're like, well, are they actually, solving the actual problem of the customer? Are they guiding the customer to an actual resolution to satisfy what they're looking for?
look,
I think so
yeah,
many businesses get caught up in, it's good enough. We have what we have. It's pretty solid, but really being thoughtful about the entire customer journey and equipping your agents, your technology,
yeah,
your AI solution, all of those things need to stack and play together very nicely. And that's
yeah,
where I think a lot of the CX leaders or people that are sitting above those CX leaders that are actually managing budgets don't quite understand that you need to spend the time to do the simple things really, really well, which starts with answering customers' interaction really, really well. But if you do that, there are so many long tail benefits to the brand, to the business,
yeah,
creating advocates, right?
which
That's
is huge, which
always
is huge.
lost.
Yeah, yeah. Look, those are, I think, the often forgotten pieces of CX, and sometimes the more important ones. Um, one thing I wanted to ask you is you've done, as you said, hundreds of, kind of partnerships with different brands and different companies, and I'm curious, what are some of the most common blind spots you see when companies try to scale their CX organizations?
Yeah, I think it all comes down again. I mean, inputs and outputs is like one of them are like, buzzwordy things that I say, but I think it's one of those buzzwords that I actually am a champion of. Um, I think it's understanding that flow of information, right?
Yeah,
Of how are we handling this specific type of order replacement? Has an order been fulfilled yet? Where within the 3PL is that order? The customer claims that they've lost their package, right? So it's process and technology, right? It's that blind spot of we know how to do it, right? But does everybody know how to do it? You have brought a new
yeah,
training class in, you have a new CX
yeah,
lead, or a lot of these startups mature and flip through people, right? A lot of times, and there's institutional knowledge lost. And so I think the blind spot is in the details, in the documentation, in thinking systematically about those volumes that are coming into the help desk and how do we actually want to attack them and triage it. So I think a blind spot is also um, another plug for customer, but like being able to actually prioritize in inbox views and routing. What are the tickets that we need to focus on right now with an SLA of 1 hour or 4 hours? And what are the tickets that we know we can handle in 24 hours or 48 hours?
Right,
Because
right.
they're high value interactions, whether it's a VIP customer that deserves a private inbox or it's a urgent order edit, order change, order, manipulation, right? Those
Yeah,
are inherent blind spots. We go into audits all the time with our businesses and we're like, talk to me. We do what we call a help desk click around, where we're
yeah,
like, you show me how you're viewing this inbox. And a lot of the times they're like, well, we have an open inbox. Everything that's an open ticket is just here and it's being
here.
worked on. And is there any actual prioritization or routing or segmenting of those customers? And really like creating light into you can leverage Shopify data, order data, customer journey information, right? And bring that into your help desk and actually help inform CX where they should be working, where they should be prioritizing. Um, I think it's a huge blind spot or where are agents working? So many
Yeah,
people say our agents work from the oldest tickets to newest, but they actually don't know that as a fact. The agents are just cherry picking in and out, which is an age old term in CX. But that is those are all blind spots, right? That people don't
yeah, that's
realize that there's
awesome.
structure and process required to solve those problems.
Yeah, you're telling me most people treat it like I treat my email. I just got a
Yeah.
big old crap ton in there. I get so bad at email. I got to work on that. I cherry pick all the time.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get a little more structure.
Snoozing.
Good box.
Snoozing is a CX. It's bad, right? Why are you snoozing a ticket? Try
Yeah,
to solve it, close it. If it comes back in, great,
yeah,
or it's like there's a process to everything in CX, and you need to be very thoughtful and in line at head of CX, director of CX, team leads.
yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that alignment I think makes a ton of sense. Um, you obviously are really close to the technology, and I'm curious. Obviously we're not here to promote this technology or that technology, but what role do you see that technology? You talked about the data flow, but I'm curious what role technology plays in this transformation. Obviously, a lot about AI lately. Where do humans still make the biggest difference with this kind of technology revolution we're seeing?
Yeah, it's funny. We've always had our core pillars at Create CX of the technology and the playbook processes. And I tell people now in sales calls that there's this new pillar of AI readiness. But the irony of AI readiness is doing the first two pillars really well, right?
Yeah,
And so setting up the technology or going through an RFP process, right? How do you evaluate what solutions are ready for us? But signing the contract for a new tool that sits underneath CX organization is only the beginning of it, right? You can start to implement intents and top prioritizations, but there's always a miss, right? It's the same thing going back to like, I just need to answer as many emails as I can per day. The technology needs love, right? CX is ever evolving. It is constantly changing as your business is changing. And I think what happens a lot of time with the technology is that it gets implemented. There's a workflow or two built out,
yeah,
but there's not a week to week, month to month plan of how you're actually going to continue to push the envelope with your technical integrations that sit around your help desk. And so
yeah,
I think a lot of our businesses, um, you know, they're either not well staffed on the technical side. They've got a really good person actually handling the inbox, coaching the agents, knows how to speak to their customer, but they don't know how the technical side and the human side interact, that like conduit sort of piece. And that's where we
yeah,
view Create CX is most valuable in these businesses, is actually serving as the conduit, connect the two pieces.
yeah,
And yeah, it's just that the technology is ever evolving, but CX is ever evolving. And it's just
yeah,
important to, understand that a technical decision is a human decision and back, right? It
yeah.
is all connected.
So
Um,
intertwined that yeah, they're
so
like
many businesses we sit and we're like, let's just shadow these agents. We're like, why are you manually tagging a ticket urgent? Or why are you manually tagging a ticket
sure.
escalation? There are so many business rules, there are so many intent classifications that can be built out to capture maybe not 100%, but 90, 95 of those tickets. And then it's about, right, we've built this technical piece. How do we inform and train our agents to actually let them know. So they're not signing into work the next day and just doing like
Yeah.
they've always done it, right? I think that's always a big thing. Is like we've done all these great things, but we actually haven't like educated the why, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I, as the founder of the company, we've got a team now, but I sit with every one of our brands. And I'm like, here's our process. Here's
Yeah.
why we're doing it. Here's what it's going to look like and how it affects your job. We're here to gather feedback from those agents on the front lines. What are you
Yeah.
seeing? What has something that fell through the cracks? Because we're not perfect. CX, as I said, is ever evolving. And so it's that feedback loop also of what are you seeing? What are you feeling? Something might have been missed. Great. Let's evaluate it, put together a change, or tell you how it fits in something else that we've already done.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Look, I think that's answering some of those core questions, like you said, the why, the what, and the how, is super helpful, I think, in some of the change management, especially as you're shadowing reps and they're like, I don't even know why I'm marking this as, an escalation. Something I've always done or it's been passed on. It's like, okay, well, let's talk through maybe what the right way to
And then
do
you're
that.
having an agent look at a ticket, tag it, then it goes to somebody else to
Yeah,
handle. It's like and then you're just sacrificing all your key metrics in terms of how to handle, satisfy your customer needs, but also like the simple thing of customer wrote in that needs help with something. It's all repetitive, right? And very
yeah,
few things that come to CX you haven't seen before. So how do you
right.
solve that using the technology for future state?
Yeah, I like that. I like that balance, man. That's so integrated. You just have to get the people. I mean, you've said kind of people, process, technology. You just got to get those working in kind of one single motion. Well, again, appreciate the time, Leeor. I want to maybe wrap with this question. Maybe a little bit of the lead behind. You work closely with a lot of startups, scaling brands. What's a scrappy CX play you've seen that really worked? I'm looking for a piece of advice where people can kind of walk away and maybe do something different in their job today.
Yeah, I think the scrappy, I mean, it's all kind of scrappy, right? We've got our processes and we know how we want to build it out. But I do think an easy tip is what are the 4 or 5 inbox views that you need
Yeah,
to satisfy customer interactions?
I like that one. I like that.
Because we went to a business recently that had 150 inbox views and only about 12 are being
No, stop.
square.
150. Are you kidding?
150. And we made a little spreadsheet, went through with the agents
That
and
makes me
said,
tired. That makes me tired just thinking about it.
it was anxiety inducing for sure. And then, we just cleaned it up and said, agents, when you sign in, you focus on this inbox. Once that's at 0, this inbox, P0, P1, P2, P3,
Yeah,
P4,
yeah, for
right?
sure, for sure.
However you want to define them internally. And, it's like, I love what we do because, again, like I said at the beginning, like we're solving this problem that everyone has. Every business has the same problem. We're solving it at the highest level. This doesn't always mean like nothing we're really doing is rocket science. I tell my team all the time, like
Yeah,
how much of what we do is comprised of 5 to 15 minute tasks. Very few things in our world are days long
days and
projects,
hours and hours and
right?
hours.
And so
Yeah,
it's like, what can we actually do to make an impact today in this hour? And then go to the next and go to the next and like stack those wins one by one. And I've taken the same mentality in building CreateCX, started with one brand partner, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And it's continued to scale. It's all about incrementality, right? Starting every day and trying to just improve things a little bit. And then in a couple months from now, you will for sure see that those metrics are all in a much healthier place. Your agents are happier, your C-suite, your executive team feels far more informed in what's going on in CX. And that's how we view it. And honestly, we love it. I look forward to
yeah,
Monday mornings. Most CX departments dread the Monday morning inbox backlog. We look forward to it because it's just another opportunity to just continue to get incrementally better. And
yeah. Optimize, iterate, get better. I like it, man. Well, that's fun. I mean, there's not many people, as close as you to the actual magic. And obviously I know your company's grown and you're probably often out of the day to day, but it's fun to talk to somebody who, because CX, yeah, it's hard to make a change from the top. I think there's a lot of things like you're mentioning about inbox optimization. Like that's a little bit in the weeds, but these are fundamental things that people have to go through that customer journey and look at each of those steps and be like, okay, use the word audit. Like, how do we fix this? And it's not until you do that and you turn it into a little more of a system or a process that you can really see change, in my opinion. So I love that. It's been a great talk, Tom.
I love being in the day to day. Of course, we do have a team as we
Sure.
continue to scale, but we don't want to be one of those agencies that has 50 brands, and we're doing it like we want to do what we do really well and be known
Yeah.
for doing it at the highest level.
Yep.
And there's an inherent trust, which I've learned as the business has grown, right? Is that they're hiring originally Leeor. Now they're hiring CreateCX. What does that actually
Yeah.
mean? And
Yep.
being able to replicate that magic, if you will. And so we touch base with every brand every week. We have Slack channels with every one of our brands. They know we're
Yep.
always available and there. And we want to be there as we started off with those big brand moments. We want to know about those big brand moments. We want the CFO to email us, hey, we've updated our financial model because something really big in our business has changed.
Yeah.
Those
Yep.
are important things. And if you can give CX a platform to be recognized and not an afterthought of when these things happen, it makes a world of a difference.
Yeah, I agree, man. 100%. Great, great overview. Great talk track, Lou. I appreciate you taking the time. It's been fun to kind of walk through. I love the inputs, outputs. I'll need to remember that one as we go forward. But anyways, okay. Well, again, appreciate the time for the audience. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you, Gabe.